Hello there everyone, good morning beautiful, how are you doing today? Welcome back to my channel, my name is Joesephyr, and in today's Should You Pull video for Dissidia Opera Omnia, we have a lot of hype to talk about. We have a brand new difficulty, hype. We have loads of resources because it's a summon board, hype. We have Selfie coming back with her enhancement boards, major hype. We have Tifa with brand new BT and FR and crazy damage, major hype. So if you guys want to hear all about that, and Bartz as well, who is less hype, which makes me sad, then of course, as always, stay tuned and keep on watching. Now before we get started, of course, don't forget to check out all of my social media links down below, including Twitter, Twitch, Discord and Patreon. I'm actually recording this video and multiple others before the community stream happens later this evening, so Monday, because I'm actually going to be away in the US next week for TwitchCon. So if you happen to be down that way in San Diego for TwitchCon and you'd like to meet up, do send me a message over on Discord, as it would be lovely to meet some of you guys if you happen to be over there. But for that reason, obviously I have to prepare a lot of videos in advance and I need to get everything done before Thursday. So if there are any discrepancies, then I will try and address them as best I can before they come about. Over on Patreon, I do always shout out one of my patrons over there every time I release a video, just so I can say thank you to each person individually, and that person today is going to be Silverhawk, who has done from Legend of Dragoon as their title card. A massive thank you goes out to you and for everyone who supports this channel. Without you guys, I wouldn't be able to do 10% of the things I do with this channel, so I really am eternally grateful. And if you'd like a title card just like Silverhawk and all of my other patrons have, or you'd like to be involved in conversations that we have as well, then perhaps you'd like to consider supporting the channel by clicking on the link in the description box below. And of course, don't forget to check out all of the other content creators and resources out there for Dissidia Opera Omnia, because they all deserve your love too. So let's get stuck into these banners, shall we? Now, as I said earlier, this is being filmed before the community stream later on, so if there's any changes here, then please forgive me. I am trying to get everything done as quickly as I can. And there's a lot to cover in this video, so let's have a look at what we've got here. So the first thing we're going to look at is the banners themselves. So the first one is going to be the return of Bartz, BT and LD, as well as having Tifa's brand new FR weapon on it, and then Selfie and Jack are going to be reappearing here. Now, Selfie doesn't get a rework here, because let's face it, she don't need one, but what she does get here are force enhancements. I don't normally talk on force enhancement based characters, just because generally speaking, you just do the ones you're going to use a lot. Selfie benefits from them massively, to the point where she is arguably the most exciting thing on these banners, and yes, that includes Tifa, because her being able to charge the FR gauge as quickly as she does, whilst also providing the Rapture debuff and then getting told to do one in favour of a friend unit, is never ever going to get old, no matter what, unless the enemy straight up resists launching. So if you don't have Selfie already, it's another opportunity for you to get her. But if you are a new player, I probably still wouldn't use this banner to get her. I would use the LD tokens that you get for starting the game to just outright pick Selfie. But if you wanted to pick somebody else, then this is a great opportunity for you to get her. And then on the other banner, we have Tifa coming in with her full kit, so her FR, her BT, her LD, and then Leo and 8 are going to be getting their extra bits here. Now, Leo doesn't get his any rework here. He just has force enhancements here. So, but his LD call is still extremely valuable in certain places. Like, a lot of people still use it for the delay in combination with the extra HP damage. It doesn't scale with force time, but every little helps. And 8 here does get a rework. So we are actually going to start here with 8. So let's take a look at what we got here. So first things first, massive thank yous to Midiu for their translations over on Reddit. 8, if you've not used him before, is a counter tank, or an evade and counter tank. So he'll lock enemies onto him, and then he'll do repeated counter attacks for enemies that decide to attack him. And before now, his skills didn't really do a lot at all up until he actually started countering. And that's been made a little bit better here. Like, Quick Bolt Stance now has 3 HP dumps in it. Last Stand Rush only has 2, but has splash damage on it. It's fine. His LD gives him his defense buff, which he gets from his LD at the start of the quest for longer than he did previously, so you'll have time to be able to use his EX, get everything going with him before you have to use his LD again. And this now has 5 HP dumps in it. It makes defense last longer, and it also means you get light speed jab plus whenever you deal damage to a broken or break a target with your skills. which is a triple HP dumping move with instant turn rate, so it's okay. And then Counter Rush, which is the counter attack he gets from his LD, now has 100% HP splash damage. His EX gets more, gets extended for the long amount of time he gets his actions for at the start of the fight, gets 6 HP dumps in it, which is significantly better, and then he gets the Phantom Rush buff, last longer, and Break Sight Blow now gets 2 HP dumps on it, and inflicts a defense debuff to anything that it's hitting. So, I still don't particularly like 8, to be honest. Like, I find him clunky compared to pretty much every other tank in the game. There are players who love him, but I don't think that anyone is going to be recommending 8 over the likes of Gladiolus, Galoof, or Auron, to be honest. Like, he's fine. Like, I think he's fine. Like, he's alright, but he's certainly not somebody I would personally go out of my way for. It doesn't help that his animations take forever to do all that stuff because he's got multiple counters that he does in between turns. His on-turn skills don't do an awful lot. There are people that like 8. I just don't happen to be one of them. So now let's pop over to the other banner for a second here so that we can take a look at Jack and Bartz. So Jack is just going to get HP dumps across the board and slightly more damage. If you've used Jack before, his main gimmick is that his skills and his follow-up give him a turn warping system similar to what Noctis has, where he'll warp in front of the enemy and be the last character, and he can keep going for as long as he's willing to use skills or until he uses his EX, essentially. He also has his Katana Wounds debuff, which comes from his LD, which increases bravery damage dealt to that target and instant breaks it. That's not as big a deal as it used to be. Like, once upon a time, pulling for Jack just for his LD call was a really potent thing. And his LD call's not completely useless still. Like, it has uses, but I certainly wouldn't go out of my way just for that. And his Ninja Slices, Lightning Flash, get increases on his HP dumps, and more importantly, the follow-up attack that comes off of all of his attacks gets a second HP dump as well. So you're getting 4 or 5 HP dumps at a time. But I think the problem with Jack, in general, even if he has got like increases on HP dumps across the board, so his LD gets some, his EX gets some, so you're dealing 6 HP dumps at a time, realistically. So it's not bad. However, he is a character that likes to take lots of turns in a row, and in the dawn of kind of force time and stuff like that, you would much rather be dealing lots of damage in singular turns, I've said this before, than spreading your attacks across multiple turns. And when your skills are doing 4 to 5 HP dumps and the deliverance or the follow-up doesn't necessarily cap out bravery all that easily, it can, but his potencies aren't the strongest, then you'd probably rather just use a different character. Now, would you go for his LD call now? No, I wouldn't go out of my way for it. Certainly given that the banner that he's on is the Bartz banner and not the Tifa banner. That's something against him as well. However, if you are pulling a selfie and you get him, well, you know, I wouldn't take it. I'd say no to him. So now let's take a look over at Bartz. Now, let me preface this by saying, I adore Bartz. I love FF5. I love everything FF5 related. FF5 is one of the games in Dissidia that's done really, really well over the course of time. Like, it's very rare you get a bad representative from FF5 in Dissidia. Now, unfortunately, is one of those times. Bartz does not get enough from his C90 here and his rework, sadly. So he gets some extra uses on his skills, he gets some HP dumps added to him, to his stuff, so Double Hand is a triple HP dump, Missile is a triple HP dump, which now has Rebreak on it, which is kinda nice, like, that's alright. His LD, which is his wind enchantment for himself, and like makes it so that you have a wind in peril even though you don't have wind in peril, which is nice, and it is the main draw for him. It's now got 5 HP dumps in it. His HP plus that he gets from it now has 3 HP attacks and is an instant turn rate with a free skill use on the following turn. And you get some Brave gains up on his LD passive as well. It's just not good enough, unfortunately. Not these days. Not for a BT wielder. It's just not. And then his EX has 4 HP dumps on it. And that's pretty much all there is to it. It goes off a lot. It's very frequent. But realistically, are you going to pick Bartz when you have support characters like Lunafreya now? Or realistically, most like support-based characters? Because if you're playing a support-based BT, you're using them to charge the force gauge and support your primary damage dealer. Bartz, once upon a time, was ridiculous because of his ability to do both. that now kind of works against him because he doesn't really do enough of either compared to characters like him that can do more of one or the other. So if you have him, great. You don't have to do anything. You've already got access to him. Are you going to use him particularly frequently? Even as somebody who really loves him and like loves FF5 and all things Bartz related? Probably not. So now we have the star of the show, the character that people have been looking forward to for ages, and there's quite a few of these BT big hitters coming up shortly, so be warned, Tifa is amazing. She is not the only one. But let's see what she gets here, and what she gets isn't very complex, but it's really silly. So she gets HP dumps. You know, she's always had HP dumps. She gets the conditions of changing Beat Rush to Beat Rush Plus so that it has 6 HP dumps to hitting a target with a critical attack. Now, she has crit ups anyway, so she's going to be hitting that very frequently, which means that if you are to use her second ability, her Battle Cry, you'll probably trigger the Plus version without having to use regular Beat Rush first. So that streamlines her quite nicely. So she gets just nothing super crazy from her actual rework except for her LD. So the LD gives her full throttle at the beginning of the combat, so that's something you don't have to necessarily use her LD straight away, which is a 7 HP dumping attack, which we all know is ridiculous. Her HP Plus, which is the free skill that she gets from using her LD, was previously a single HP dumping attack that gave you a free skill use the following turn. Now it has 6. And it's a free turn. That's instant turn rate. So is Battle Cry. You can see where I'm going with this. It's a lot of damage. It's a lot of damage. And not only that, but she also has Brave damage, and that HP attack that we mentioned when it came to Leo, Tifa has that now. All the time, as long as she has her LD buff up. It's a lot. Her EX now does more HP dumps on it, because the second part of her HP dump, the HP attacks of Dolphin Blow now has 3, so she's going to be dealing even more HP damage with her EX, whilst also launching and delaying the enemies. It's all good stuff. Like, there's nothing crazy here yet, like, that she didn't already have. We'll get to that. Her FR weapon is good. It's great. It very much plays into what Tifa does. So her partner is Rem. It has 4 HP dumps in it, which is quite nice for an FR attack. So if you're using her BT, which realistically you will be, you may want this just so that you have extra mass damage during her BT phase. And then the force time effect is whenever you deal brave damage to a single target, and whenever a character deals critical bravery damage. So it's good. However, Tifa is very much exemplified in this FR because she is extremely single target focused. If you want AoE damage, you aren't going to be getting it from Tifa. If you want single target damage, you will be getting it in absolute droves. And if you want to use her FR for that and just go off with Tifa, you can absolutely do that. However, one of the nice things about Tifa is the fact that she can use other people's FRs very, very nicely just by being a hefty damage dealer. That's all she needs to do. That's all that needs to come out of her. The star of the show here, this BT weapon. Girl, what are you playing at? So it's a 12 HP dumping brave BT attack, which in and of itself is quite nice. Like we've seen from the likes of Tidus and Cloud how powerful those can be. And then she gets a BT effect for 8 turns, which after any attack she does, triggers Water Kick and Somersault, which are both triple HP dumping attacks. She already does at least sort of 6 for crazy amounts of HP dumps in her attacks already, up to 7. So adding another 6 to that? Sure, Jan. She also gives to the party 50% bravery damage, 50% brave damage cap, brave overflow, and bravery cap, like HP damage cap up, which are the exact stats you realistically want for a damage dealer, which is more damage. And given how like her instant turn rates work, so you've got her HP plus full throttle that's now doing 6 HP dumps, you've got Battle Cry that's doing 4. There's a lot here. Not all of her stuff is instant turn rate. So that's nothing a Lunafreya or a Lunafreya call can't fix. So you can stick a Lunafreya call on her own, just go FRBT and then just go off. Like, just go off with your Battle Cries, your HP plus full throttles. It's a lot, and then by the time you've done that, you'll probably then go into her BT phase, and you will deal astronomical damage if you set her up correctly to be able to capitalize on force time, as well as just the sheer amount of damage that she does to a single target. A lot of people are very excited for Tifa, and there's no wonder why. She is unparalleled when it comes to single target damage. Like, there's no one quite like her. So before we actually talk about the hard difficulty fight within this particular event, it's important to talk about Spiritus summons and what the actual mechanics are behind that. Now, before I get started on this, I'm going to touch on this very briefly because it's a very long video already, but Simply Lost has an absolutely fabulous video explaining pretty much everything you need to know about the summon board itself, how it works, how you're going to grind it, how it all works. So I will definitely link that down below, as I very much encourage you to watch that. So I'm actually going to use an image here that's taken from Square's official JP sort of Twitter account here. I actually got this from Rem over at DissidiaDB.com, so thank you very much for that. So this is basically what you're going to see here. There's slight differences with this to previous Divine Summons, but you'll be pleased to know it is a permanent fixture. You can still get loads of resources out of it, up to 400 tickets, 40k gems, and a load of Force shards as well, so it'll be useful for upgrading some Force enhancements while you're at it. So as you can see here, it's a panel mission, similar to like a Choco board and stuff like that, but what it asks for is particular types of characters for you to bring along in order to farm those points, and each one of those is going to sort of equate to keys that you then open chests with to get those rewards. So using this event as a particular, provided it is exactly the same, which will be Brothers Spiritus, you'll get FF6, FF7 and Type 0, which is obviously going to be significant of the likes of Leo, 8 and Tifa, and then White Crystal, Red Crystal and Yellow Crystal, again, same characters, and then there's weapon types involved as well, so Fist, Sword, Other, same again. So what you'll do is you want to build your team within Synergy if you can, because you'll still get double points for Synergy, more even if you have Mog Pass activated, and then you'll use those characters to farm the Spiritus event to fill out each of these panels so that you can then get the keys so that you get the rewards from it. You can actually do this during the Chaos, the Lufenia, the Spiritus mission itself, in fact, and you'll get rewards for it based on that. But if you wanted to just farm it using the Chaos, then you can do that. The Spiritus itself is done slightly differently. So the Spiritus fights are done with a ranking system, so D through to S, and the way that that works is you get rewards based on that, depending on how many turns you take to clear it, as well as how far you actually get within the fight. You actually don't have to even finish the event in order to get a D to a B ranking. It's dependent on how much HP you've taken from the enemy, because Spiritus fights are designed to be harder than Shinryu, but they're essentially just glorified Shinryu fights. It sounds complex, but it's not nearly as bad as you think it is, or as perhaps I'm explaining it. When the event drops, you'll see it's actually not super dissimilar to other farming events that we've had with summons in the past, but it's well worth doing because, for example, the upgrades you get to Brothers, like by upgrading them to level 50, is the amount of damage that you'll do from the actual summon itself. When you get sort of massive amounts of force time, you know how you would typically use like a summon on the last one turn of your force time while you've got all that big like force time active? Doing that with a Spiritus enabled summon will deal catastrophic damage. So now that we've got the brief explanation of what Spiritus is all about, let's take a look at the actual Spiritus fight we have. And you'll notice it's not actually against Brothers, it's against something weak to Brothers, which is the Brontoceras, so the Bronze Horse. If you wanted to look at this as another Kirin fight, similar to what Vayne has, you'll see a lot of similar kind of attacks that it does. It doesn't have the nasty interruptions that the white Kirin has, as opposed to the bronze one. But honestly, the main challenges with this fight are going to be the mechanics behind it. It has force time, although the force time itself actually isn't that terrifying. All it does is increase its bravery gen, and it can't be delayed. And it lasts for 3 turns, and the actual force attack is actually only a bravery attack, but he removes his debuffs when he does it. Now, the thing that's kind of nasty here is that he permanently is break immune because he has a bravery flaw. So if you're going to let the horse take turns, you're going to want some sort of tanking available, because otherwise it's going to be dealing more damage than you possibly can deal with. Gladio and Core are fabulous here. If you want to use a different tank, then they'll work as well, but those two in particular are fantastic. And the other thing to bear in mind is, as the force gauge goes up, your max bravery is going to plummet. Like, the max brave downs that you can see all here, like, your max bravery is going to drop very heavily. So you want to try and counteract that as best you can with just max brave ups. Tifa obviously does this well for herself. Now, the mechanics of the fight are HP based. So, like I said earlier, in order to get graded for the Spiritus fight and get rewards based on your grade, at 60% you get D rank, at 50% 30% you get C rank, at 10% you get B rank, and then if you beat him, it's at like under 50 turns, you get S rank. If it's over 50 turns, it's A rank. Now, your biggest enemy here, realistically, is that 50 turn count and the fact that he has 210 million HP. So that's something that you have to bear in mind, is you're going to need to deal a lot of damage. Tifa is a character that a large majority of players are going to be pulling for, and will deal that amount of damage if you need her to. If you set her up right, you can do that amount of damage. But because of the break immunity and the fact that he does render himself immune to delay, instant turn characters are going to be preferable here. Characters like Tidus will do very well just because of the amount of damage they can churn out. Machina gets used for clears quite a lot. There's a wide variety of characters that you can use for this, but Tifa, for obvious reasons, is by far the strongest one. Now, at 60%, if you actually get the D rank, the Spiritus monster will actually give you skill uses back as like a reward for you doing it. Just, it doesn't work if you're in a burst phase though. And then at 50%, he instantly charges his force gauge. Instantly charges it, goes straight into force time, and then he gains a brand new mechanic, which he gets an aura for. So once he has this aura, there's an invisible ticker that will decrease by 1 every time a turn is like taken, and it goes up by 3 if you deal a critical hit. So for that reason, once again, Tifa is king here because she has crit fix. But if you want other ways of dealing crit fix, you can have LD calls available, such as Barret or Saz. Or if you wanted to bring Cisne is actually a really good shout here, particularly alongside Tifa, because crit fixing all around, she supports Tifa really well. Lots of options there that you can bring for that. And basically, if the Spiritus monster's stacks run out, then it will do a pretty nasty attack that paralyzes you and does nasty things. You don't want that to happen, basically. Now, when you get to 30%, you then have to rush him down to below 10% within the next 30 actions. So that includes sort of instant turn rates, etc. Otherwise, he wipes you, and you can't call during this time. And then after 10%, he gets a massive 20 million HP shield. But if you break it, he instantly dies. But if he gets a turn while he has that shield, you instantly die. So there's a lot of moving parts to this fight. A lot of them, honestly though, are circumvented by bringing Tifa, Cisne, Lunafreya, and just letting Tifa do all the work. You also can't bring a friend unit to this, so that's something that's worth mentioning. So if you want to bring Selphie is absolutely fine for this fight. But bear in mind that you can't switch her out for a friend unit once she's kind of done everything. She's charged your gauge for you now. She's got the rapture down. You can't use that kind of mentality. But if you're, again, supporting Tifa, there's no reason why you can't do that. There's a lot of options around it. You just have to bear in mind all of these different factors. You need your crit fix. You need some tanking because you can't delay him like very easily. Like, you can delay him early. And if you get past the point where he has force time and you get to the point where you need to make sure that you break the shield early or at the end, so that you can use your summon here to take out a lot of that. If you've leveled your brother summon up and you've got to force time and he's under 10%, just summon that sucker and you'll take most of that shield away. Like, you can deal a crazy amount of damage with the Spiritus summons now. Now, I wouldn't worry about it too much. This is still like a permanent thing, but you do want to try and get there as quick as you can for limited rewards, etc. So just bear in mind that there are a large number of mechanics and moving parts around, and hopefully you'll be fine. Okay, so now we have Would You Pull, the section of the video where you, the viewer, get your chance to let your voice be heard and tell everybody whether you would pull on any given banner and why that might or may not be the case. Let's go straight into the numbers, shall we? Big thank yous to all of my patrons for casting their votes. In fact, major thank yous because I actually had to ask my patrons to vote on all of Tifa's batch before the community stream so that I could get everything done in time for when I go away next week. So big thank yous for that. Anyways, with Bartz's banner, surprising nobody, pretty much nobody is pulling on this banner at all. Like, literally 0% on gems, 100 plus tickets, or less than 100 tickets, and we asked more than 100 people for this. 9% of people said no thanks because they're not interested, and 91% of people said no thanks because they've got it all already. Even if you didn't get Selfie the last time she came around, if you were new to the game, she was definitely a character that was heavily recommended for the LD tokens, and no one else on this banner really gets enough to justify pulling here. So, if you don't have Selfie, this banner has a lot more value, but realistically, you're probably not pulling on this banner. Conversely, the Tifa banner here, 60% of people are saying yes to gems here, 24% of people are saying yes to 100 or more tickets, 4% of people are saying sure to less than 100 tickets, and 12% of people are saying no thank you. I think I'm going gems here. Like, you know, Core did a ding on my tickets, but I'm still got a lot of them. If I go for, if I go for just the FR, then I'll be waiting to try and get her BT for when Faris comes around, because that's the other character I'm interested in most during this batch. But realistically, it's the BT you want when it comes to this character. Like, you can live without the FR. The BT is something else, so I think that that is justifying of a gem banner, to be honest. And if you get the FR, great. I would actually continue pulling and maybe save yourself some high power stones, because if you're going in on this banner, you need that BT. So if you're not going to spend tokens on it, you need to pull for it. Let's go into some comments. Cobalt Zork says, I suspect I know which way the vote will go for Tifa. Everyone who will throw everything at her, apart from a few hipsters who want to go against the grain. Yes, no one's essential, but when you've got a character dropping more HP dumps just in follow-up attacks than most characters can manage all in, it's really hard not to recommend. With their BT effect up, Tifa is getting 10 HP dumps minimum, which is on Battle Cry, which is instant turn rate. Skill 2, LD, her LD HP plus variant clocking in at 12, 13 on her EX. Even Flex Tape isn't fixing that kind of damage. Her FR suits her well. It's not going to hit Camlanort numbers, but she's basically guaranteed to get 60% per turn while dealing obscene damage. Again, the FR is icing on the cake. It's very Luna Freya, like that. It's icing on the cake. The BT is everything for Tifa, so if you're not willing to go in on that BT, I wouldn't go in on Tifa at all. J-Dog says, definite gems on Tifa for her FRBT. She's a monster at single target damage, so if you enjoy watching big numbers fly off the screen and follow-up attacks, she's the unit for you. Pair her with the likes of Core and Kayn and you can clear most of the foreseeable content. She's just that strong. However, she's not the most intuitive to play. She likes to turn hog as a good portion of her kit is instant turn. Her kit is all about damage, damage, damage and not much else. Do you know what? After seeing quite how many people use the likes of Tidus and Terra and like Machina, I don't think people are fussed by that as much these days as they used to be. Like, I think people just like seeing the big numbers, because let's face it, that's what the game is nowadays. If you're going into a BT phase, those numbers want to be high, and Tifa brings those numbers very, very strongly. So you can't really argue with it. And then finally, Multiracial Lion says, I think what I'm going to do here is just token Tifa's BT and leave. I had a horrible experience playing Tifa on JP, specifically because I didn't have her burst. I had her FR, I maxed it, and then literally never played her again. She would work just fine driving someone else's force time, so I don't think I really needed her FR. She's an incredible unit though, if you have her burst. She loses the majority of her damage without it, and it hurts. Given that the FR and burst are the only things I'll be wanting anyway, I'm extremely tempted to token and walk away. Renoa, Sellers, Minwoo, Hope, I've said it before already, I'm not missing out on these characters, even for one of my favourite characters in the franchise, just because I got unlucky with tickets or whatever. Again, the BT is everything, if you want to use Tifa. If that's intimidating to you, then perhaps leave her and move on. But you get so much out of that BT. It's like we said, like was said earlier, 6 HP dumps on follow-ups is more than a lot of characters have total. Yes, Tifa's thing is damage, but it's so much damage that the thing falls over. What difference does it make? The days of, oh, she only does damage, that's been and gone, because you can have someone else do the FR charging. You can have someone else do the extra bits for Tifa. You don't need anything else from her anymore. All you want is damage, and she delivers it in droves. So now, of course, the question of whether you should be pulling for Tifa's FR and BT or not. Well, honestly, most of you probably don't need me to tell you whether you're going to be pulling for Tifa or not, because a lot of you probably are. But bear in mind that Tifa's FR is not the most important part of her kit. The most important part of her kit is her BT, which is shared across multiple banners. So if you're looking at Faris or Lude, maybe you might want to consider, like, just throwing some stuff at Tifa early and making use of those resources we get from the Spiritus event, and then saving up for some of the other characters as well. But most people probably aren't going to do that. I'm probably not going to do that. Sometimes sensible isn't necessarily the right thing to do, and we're all going to end up pulling for it anyway. Tifa does damage. It's not a lot else I can really say about it, but she does a minimum of 10 HP dumps while her BT is active, which is crazy. And, you know, combine that with some instant turn shenanigans, a bit of off-turn damage here, some support extras here and there, and you have a monstrosity for damage. But that BT is mandatory for her kit. So if you don't have access to the Ultima resources or the resources to try and grab it, whether you're using BT tokens or gems to get it, you're probably not going to use Tifa all that often because she loses literally half her damage output without it. It's very, very important. There is, however, another BT-based character that's very heavy on the damage coming up very shortly as well in Renoa, so perhaps she might be more interesting to you. The rest of the banners outside of this particular character aren't actually all that interesting, except for one, Selphie. And Selphie doesn't actually get a lot. She gets force enhancements, which are amazing for her, because, you know, you have wall, you have aura, you have turns, just like turns and turns and turns of off turn, no damage, instant turn shenanigans, so she's going to be a fantastic FR gauge builder for you, which you can then use Rapture and then tell her to do one the following turn for a friend unit. So she's even more valuable than she was before, and we all know how busted she's been up until this point. So if you don't have her, the value of that banner does go up a heck of a lot. But it's only really because of her. Jack and 8 are fine. Like, they get pretty generic upgrades. Nothing super crazy. I still don't particularly care for either of them, but maybe you do. And Bartz, as much as I adore him, he is kind of stuck, where he's not really got enough support to warrant him anymore because there's other characters that do better, but he also doesn't do enough damage to really use him as your primary damage dealer, so he's kind of lost his identity somewhere down the way, and it's really sad. But if you're skipping these in favour of future banners and you're just looking to get Tifa, that's not a bad thing, because Tifa hurts, but she hurts so good. So that's going to be all for today's video. Hopefully this is all accurate information in relation to the community stream, because I'm already having to do like 4 or 5 videos this week, and I really hope that I don't have to change this. But thank you ever so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell for notification of any future videos I might be making. And if you happen to be at San Diego TwitchCon next week, it would be lovely to meet you. So thank you very much for coming, and I shall see you another time. Take care, beautiful. Have a lovely day.